We are with our November cover feature, Miss Jill BECKETT-HILL. Welcome. It's so lovely to have you with us. Jill is with the Beckett Realty Group and someone who is synonymous with class, integrity, just a beautiful reputation in our industry. So this was a highlight for me to be able to feature you and tell your story indeed.
So it's, I graduated a quarter late we were on the quarter system back then at Ohio State, and my father, said to me, he said, hey, while you're doing this internship at 10 TV, you need to pay your rent. And so I think you need to get a part-time job. And so I did, and my internship was non-paid at 10 TV, but I loved it. And I worked with a photojournalist, and I really got to see at a very high level cliff notes of what the news industry does, how hard they work, and creating the stories and the content, how it comes in, and then the reaction time. It was really fascinating to me, but also I saw a really difficult side, a sad side. And to me, that was really personal and really reflective of, is this right for me? And then in January, I was asked by Abercrombie to move to Kansas City. And I decided, okay, I've graduated. This might be just a fun career path. So I moved to Kansas City. My mom and I packed up my car and we drove to Kansas City, Missouri. So after I left that, and then in September of 1993, or just before then, I moved back to Columbus, and I was a buyer for that. So I lived back in Columbus for a year and a half. And then in 1995, I moved to Boston. So I moved to Boston, and I was a district manager there, and I lived a year and a half. I lived there for a year and a half. And then I did leave the company at that point, and I moved to New York City.
All right, so Jill, I wanted to ask you about your stay in New York City as someone in their early 20s, and what year did you move there?
So I grew up saying I would never move to New York City. Never wanted to. So when my husband moved to Hoboken and I decided that I would join him there, I moved, and it was my favorite city. It was just a really vibrant city. It was a very fun city to live in when you were, single, and I didn't have children at that time. So the energy just really feeds off of you. Now there's, the subways, and there's all of the other, getting to and from can be challenging, and it takes a lot of time. But I loved it when I worked in Manhattan. And I will tell you funny stories. I would have people come in to the store. I was working for Calvin Klein at 60th and Madison, and I would have customers say, where are you from? You are not from New York City. I said, no, I'm not. I'm from the Midwest. And they're like, you're so friendly. And I just met really amazing people there. But on the flip side is when I moved back to Columbus after New York City, like, you talk so fast, Jill. Right? So New York did wear off on me. But it was great. It was a fun experience of my time.
So what about the food scene in New York?
So fabulous. I mean, the food, I was actually just there recently with my daughter, and she picks out all these really fun places. I have a running list. So if anybody wants a great Cliff Note list of some great places to go to, they're really fun. But it's just so fun, very simple, very fresh.
Yeah.
I think the theater has always been just such an attraction for us. It was really fun. One year we stayed for Thanksgiving, did the parade, we saw the ball drop. I mean, there's just little things that are just iconic memories for my husband and I. And so it's fun to go back and re-experience those with our children.
Absolutely.
And my son, Sam, keeps asking me, he's like, Mom, when are we going to New York? When are we going to New York? So we did the big touristy event earlier this year. We took him to the Statue of Liberty. We took the ferry out. We did it. It was really fun.
So talk us through how you ended up getting your real estate license.
So kind of going back to my journey, so back in 1997, that's when Adam and I got married, they asked Adam to move to Columbus, and we were living actually in Hoboken, New Jersey. So we moved back. We found out I was expecting our first child, and my sister Kelly I would call her every day, and she goes, "You are driving me crazy." I said, "I'm so bored." I was just so bored. My husband was traveling.
Yeah, you were used to having a fast pace.
Like 40 months pregnant. Once we left New York, I was working at that time for Calvin Klein at 60th and Madison. So that was a really fun career. So, it's a big change of life. And I have worked out since I was 13 years old. So I've always been busy. I love the structure. So my sister's like, "You're going to go get your real estate license." I think a lot of people kind of fall into that type of a scenario.
And was she a realtor at the time?
Yeah, so Kelly was a realtor with Realty Executives. And so I said, sure, I'll get my license. So I remember on my birthday, my 29th birthday, 2 days later, I made my sister, at that point, we got letters to see if we had passed our test.
Wow.
Kelly opened it, and sure enough, I was licensed at that point. And then in June, right after I had my son Sam, my sister opened her own brokerage, Realty Executives Decision. So I was her. She drove me down, and I had the baby, and I went upstairs and transferred my license. So it was a really great way for me to, work with my sister. And my parents are very surprised because as kids, you fight like siblings. But it was a really great opportunity for me being a new mom, and I would help her behind the scenes. And actually, I did broker price opinions.
All right. So, Jill, you still are working with your brother and your sister, Matt and Kelly. How have you made that work over the years? Can you just kind of touch on that experience?
Well, we are a very close-knit family, and so it's funny how when you work with your family, but yet you don't really see them that often, but yet you're still so close and connected with them. And I always have felt that way with my siblings because everyone is both really busy, but whenever I need something, it's like, call me right now. And I love that because we also make fun of each other. We act like siblings. We play practical jokes on one another. But yet it's been such a rewarding opportunity to work with your family and have that kinship.
Yeah, that trust level.
The value, and always being there for one another. And I think that, having your sibling, and whenever I have a question in the broker, because both of my siblings are brokers, that I can call really quickly in the time of need. So I'm really grateful for that. And I just value the depth of the family piece of it, is that we're always bonded, not only by, family, but also by business too. I've tried to, I think with the highs and lows of this real estate business, I always seek to find grace. Give yourself grace in all of those moments. Grace for the good times, thankfulness for that. And then when things are challenging or didn't go as expected, how do you handle that with grace and kindness and take this as a learning opportunity? And starting out was really hard, because you're just getting your feet wet, right? Yeah. And I always said, when you were new, and advice to new agents is saying, I know it's frustrating, but wake up every day with this to say, okay, yesterday was a tough day, or try this again. I think being engaged, my sister gave me really great advice and said, Jill, you need to get in the office. Get in the office, be in the action so you can hear, because things happen very last minute. So she instilled some great things to keep that sustainable, and then just be thoughtful, authentic, and just try not to get discouraged in this business. And I think there's enough business for everybody. And I think you just have to just stay the course. And, for me, it was always about who I met along the way. It was always the key piece for me.